But it is grand final week, and we'll get your thoughts on what transpired across the weekend, what's going to happen this Sunday night, and of course Dally M's this week as well. But I want to touch on your grand final week experience, Matty. It's a different week.
Yes.
You can sit around, I'm sure, mate, and say it's just another game, but it's not. And the week determines that, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Matt. And it's a mistake going into this week, in my opinion, saying, hey, boys, it's just another week. Look, it's really interesting. If you try to avoid the hype, it takes more energy to avoid it than just enjoy it. When we made the grand final, we beat Norths to get through. And the Sunday after the match, we went and we had a rehab session at the ground, and 5,000 people turned up, right? And which was just a little bit of a sneak preview of what the week was going to be like. So the coach pulled us in, the great Malcolm Reilly. He said, boys, there's two ways we can do this, right? He said, we can try to escape all the hype and bunker down, or we embrace it and we enjoy it. And we went for the latter. And it was one of the greatest weeks of my life. It was the hype around the town. We had appearances to do, but everywhere we went, Matt, there was goodwill. Our last training session at the ground, there was almost 20,000 people turned up. And it was crazy. 30,000 people saw us, waved us goodbye up the highway. And it was just fantastic. The whole experience, it was great. The grand final breakfast, we went down there, the grand final breakfast, it was just tremendous. And that's what it's about. It's about enjoying it. And, I've seen teams before, it's famously the Parramatta sides that were beaten in 2001, and Brian Smith was big on, now get away from all the hype. It takes more energy to do that. Like, it's a great week in your life. Why do you try to avoid it?
Did you ever think, though, that you might have got to a point where it was too much, where you thought you were going to be tired going into the game? I mean, bizarrely enough, speaking about the Wallabies, a lot of people, and me included, sat there going, they just look so flat. For a match that they had to win, they looked as though they had all the life sucked out of them. Did you ever feel leading into that 97 grand final that you'd done so much and you had embraced it, but geez, I might be running out of gas here?
Not for a second, Matty. Not for a second. It was, I woke up the morning of the game just feeling fantastic, and all the players did. We all went down to breakfast and were that excited. Not for 1 second did we feel pressure going into the game. Not for a second did I feel fatigued. There was not one thing in that week that I felt was a chore. The whole experience was fantastic. We couldn't have done it better.
What about the opposition? Did you notice anything from Manly
Yes.
that said to you, hang on a second, there's something different going on here?
Absolutely. The footy show had their grand final. The grand final night, we sent, I think might have been Chief and Billy Peden down, and it was always that grand final footy show was always a really big one. When Chief and Billy Peden walked out, big cheer from the crowd, and they smiles in their face, and then Terry Hill and Beaver walked out, and all the crowd booed, right? And I was sitting watching at home, and I could just see, like, there was a shocked look on their face. It was, I just saw a little bit of vulnerability there, and I saw a little bit at the grand final breakfast, Matty. I mean, look, you got to, going into a grand final in a really big match, it is a luxury to be the underdog. And you go in there, you don't feel the same pressure of the favourites. And I could see that just weigh on Manly. What happened as well, Matty, and it can't be underestimated what the Roosters did for us that year. So we play North Sydney on the Saturday. We win in a really close game in the wet. The following day, right, we do the rehab in the morning, and we're sitting on the lounge and we're watching Manly play the Roosters. It was one of the great finals games that's been forgotten. Manly beat the Roosters, I think it was 17-16, but the Roosters just took them all the way. The game went the distance. And I reckon if you watch the last 10, 15 minutes of that grand final in 97, Manly were out on their feet. And I've got no doubt a big contributor to that were the Roosters the week before.
0457 736 736. We'll hand this one over to our listeners. So what do you see then when you see the Broncos team, and then what do you see in the Penrith team, just on what you've seen in their body language, how much gas they've got left in the tank? Who do you think's maybe playing grand final week a little bit different? The Panthers have been there. I mean, it's their second home over the last 4 years. The Broncos have got so much to experience this weekend. So it's an extraordinary matchup. We'll dig into that, obviously, in great detail a little bit later on. Matty's going to give us his Dally M Team of the Year. So in the first hour, I'll get you to give me your forwards, Matty. In the second, we'll do backs. Yep. Then we'll do Coach and Rookie of the Year and your Dally M winner before we let you go today. We'll also talk about the good, the bad, and the future of the two teams that dipped out on the weekend, the Melbourne Storm and the Warriors. But forward passes. What do we do? It's a very simple fix. It's not going to happen for the GF. Forget about chips and all that kind of stuff. The bunkers there, just let them do it.
Yes. I agree with you to an extent, Matty. Firstly, on the chips. I mean, please, no more technology. Like, it'd just be, in my opinion, it'd just be too much. Look, you got the referee and the two touch judges there. Like, once upon a time, the touch judges, like, was such an integral part of the officiating. They've sort of just gone with the technology and the bunker. They've sort of gone silent a little bit. They've got a big job there. I can't believe that the three of them missed that forward pass, one of the most blatant forward passes I've ever seen in the game. Matty, my only concern with the bunker is letting the devil in the door. Is if you allow the bunker to tip, then suddenly the last thing I want is basically the bunker just tipping relentlessly to the referee on the field, and which would happen. It just led to so much stop-start. I know what you're saying, and I know people are saying, but they should be able to interject for the obvious howler that's going to be missed. Yes. But, Matty, I'm just not in favour of it. I don't like it. I just can't get over the fact that the referee, even if the referee's in bad position, the two touch judges, don't see that and can just tip to the referee. I leave it to the on-field officiating.
Yeah, look, everyone always says, mate, what happens if this happens in a grand final?
Yep.
Well, it happened 1 week away from the grand final. It could well and truly happen next week. It happened in a game in the end that it didn't determine the outcome of the game, but it could well and truly. So they're going to have to do something about it because you're spot on. The howler is the one that we're all trying to stop, but the grand final howler is the one that will change everything.
Look, Matty, it could be that you say that the only thing they can rule on is the forward pass, right? But then someone might say, oh, well, then, missed a little knock on here. It's just so murky. Matty, if you bring more technology in the game, it's the lesser of two evils, Matty. Like that forward pass, okay, that happened and they completely missed, or is it that you allow the bunker to interject and you change the rule, but the overall product, the overall game is less because of what that does. It leads to the stop-start nature of the game. That's what concerns me. I think missing the occasional howler is the lesser of two evils.
Let us know your thoughts on that one, folks, on 1300 01 1170. Peter Volandis has said we should look at it, as in forward pass technology. Any help we can give the refs, we should. He said any assistance that we can give them to relieve some of the pressure would be common sense, and we'll look at it during the off-season in our general review. So they're going to look at it. That's a no-brainer. They would have looked at it whether that happened or not, but I just get the feeling that they're going to have to come up with an answer sooner rather than later. Yeah,
I know what you're saying, Matty. I fully understand it, and I can imagine Warrior supporters will be, up in arms because, Matty, I will say this, watching that game, that forward pass, that try really almost burst the Warriors' bubble. From there, the Broncos were on with it, and at that point in the game was in the balance. The Warriors are still in it. I reckon that try was almost like the sword that put him to the sword. Well, it sort of killed off the Warriors to a certain extent. So it was It was a big moment in the game. Don't be fooled by the final score. It was a big moment.